Hey, what's going on, everybody? Currently traveling to North Carolina, making a few stops along the way. Figured I'd do something different, so I'm gonna talk about the NBA in the process of going on this trip. So this is just an intro. I'll see you in a bit. So, brief history. Sports just runs strong through my family. There's an episode on my podcast I did with my dad where we talked about it, but my grandfather did sports, my uncles did sports, my dad did sports, of course, and even my mother. So that's stuff. So when it comes to me, I've always been a fan of the sport. I've always loved playing basketball, and I love watching basketball games with my dad. Is one of my favorite things to do. And then, just, there you go. Yeah, made it to North Carolina. Didn't get a chance to record on the rest of the trip, so here we go, Christmas Day. So when it comes to basketball, let's just get it out the way. Michael Jordan is my favorite player, always has been, always will be. So really starts with Space Jam, and then on to MJ on the Wizards, so I could finally watch Michael Jordan play. That was my favorite thing ever. And then after that, we got NBA 2K3 Classic, my first 2K game. Iverson on the cover. Iverson was also one of my favorite players, and those are the only two players that I had jerseys of. Wizards MJ and Iverson on the Sixers, the black Sixers jersey. Y'all know, classic. So that was really it. Those are my favorite players. In terms of a team that I really liked, I never really liked a team until the 2004 finals when Detroit won over the Lakers. My dad is a big Kobe fan. Kobe's death was crazy. I'll get into that a little later. But yeah, he was always a big Laker fan. My mother is too. But I was never really a Kobe fan growing up. I was very anti-Kobe. So when there was a team that could defeat Kobe and Shaq, I was like, oh yeah, I'm rocking with them. So the classic Pistons, Billups, McDyess, Prince, Ben Wallace squad, you know what I mean? Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace, you know what I mean? So yeah, that was the biggest thing for me. I think that team was really, really my favorite. But my first team that I loved, again, against Kobe, was the '08 Celtics. I don't know, it just kind of all came together. I was already a Garnett fan before that. But Ray Allen and Paul Pierce, I grew to love them. Rondo, Perkins, they just had a real power team. And it's crazy because looking back, they only won that one championship, but they were always in contention. So when you look back at it, it feels like they won more championships than they did. But I really was a fan of that team. Every time we played 2K, I was the Celtics. If I wasn't the Celtics, I was the Bulls. A couple years later with Derrick Rose, and Jimmy Butler, Kirk Heinrich. That was my other squad, and that was my new favorite player, for real, Derrick Rose. But before that, after Michael Jordan and Iverson, I would say my favorite players were Chauncey Billups and then Dwayne Wade. Always liked Dwayne more than LeBron. I was a LeBron fan for a while, I'm not gonna lie. Daniel, if you ever watched this, yes, I used to love LeBron James. I had a 23 Cavaliers jersey, I did. And I really, really liked his game. But when it came down to it, I was never rooting for him because I'd rather watch Wade than LeBron, so I was rooting for the Heat. But then when it came to the Eastern Conference, I was always a Celtic fan. Celtics come first, so LeBron on the totem pole didn't really, never really did it for me. So yeah, hey. But then that all changed as far as like Celtics dominance when LeBron went to the Heat. Yeah, and I ain't gonna lie, that's when I became like legit anti-LeBron. I couldn't stand LeBron, and that has stayed to this day. I'm just not a big LeBron fan. I don't, if we're gonna talk about it now, I might as well talk about it. He is not the GOAT for me. It's always gonna be Jordan, but I will always say I respect his game. One of the greatest basketball players to ever play this sport. His durability is beyond comprehension. The fact that he's as old as he is and still playing the way that he's playing now is truly amazing, and I commend him. I truly do. Just not a fan. And when he was on the Heat, he wilded out. He wilded out. The Heat was the squad, and man, watching them games was something else. I remember that year when they were on like a 22, 23 winning streak. I remember that year. I was in college. I'm like, these bros just will not lose. Like, not for nothing. And I got tight because I was a big Dwayne Wade fan. And I knew that it was going to take the shine away from him and become LeBron's team. And I didn't like that. But they did their thing. And when Ray Allen joined their team, I felt like KG, man. Like, straight up, you betrayed us, you did that, and I wasn't with it. Now that I'm older, I understand all the nuances with that, and I'm glad they all made peace. But I was tight. But that Ray Allen shot, bang! Y'all know it, the classic bang. That was that was one for the books. But while we're talking about that, I also have to acknowledge the dominance of the Spurs. The 2014 Spurs are one of the greatest teams of all time. And the way that they dismantled the Heat, they won that series in 5 games. Tim Duncan, underrated, top 10 player. That was just great to watch. And if Kawhi hadn't left the way that he left, the Spurs would continue to be like dominant to this day. I truly believe that. Like Kawhi was supposed to take the reins from Duncan and Parker and all that, and it just didn't happen that way. And I hope Pop retires with a really decent season. He's one of the greatest coaches of all time. So, got to give it up to that. And then, I'm just kind of going through my feelings through NBA history. Trying not to make this video super duper long. But, I just think of all my memories of basketball. And then out of nowhere came the Warriors. And LeBron goes back to Cleveland. Not really sure where I left off, but yeah, when the Warriors came into the game, I think Curry became my dad's like new favorite player because Kobe was on the decline then. And speaking of Kobe, while we're on the subject, I truly do believe that if Chris Paul had joined the team, one of LeBron's rings would have been Kobe's, which in essence would have potentially gave Kobe at least 6 rings, which would then put him neck and neck with Jordan, which makes this whole GOAT thing a completely different conversation. And I think Kobe needs to be higher in the GOAT conversation because he was before everything else happened. Now, obviously, he got injured in his decline. Obviously, plays a role in the totality of his career, but the Kobe will forever be one of the greatest. So there's that. Back to the Warriors. Yeah, Steph Curry, man, that's just an amazing thing to see. I love it. I think that he's just a tremendous person, a tremendous player. His family is beautiful, something that I aspire to kind of like model myself after. I think the way that they operate as a family, even as husband and wife, I think is really admirable. And he's just a really all-around good person. and the way he leads his team. I think he's one of the best leaders in the game, especially in terms of lead by example. I think that team, ebbs and flows and moves how Steph moves, and that's just just a reflection of how great he is as a talent and as a ball player. So I will always respect Curry. People who don't like Curry don't like him because he beat LeBron, and that's really the only reason. People who hate Warriors, hate the Warriors because they beat LeBron, or because they allowed KD to join the team, which, you know, that's a whole another thing in itself. Talking about Kevin Durant is honestly an exhausting conversation to have. Durant is in my top 15. He'd have to win another ring and win the Finals MVP for him to crack top 10 for me. But he's amazing. I don't hate him the way everybody else does, but he is very he just moves different, and his focus is just on the sport and not really on the politics. I think he responds to everybody too much, and not in a way that feels cool. It just feels very defensive all the time, and that just gets very annoying. I also don't, but for the record, I also don't hate Kyrie the way everybody else does, but his theatrics just get exhausting, and his reasonings for things is just very ugh, can we just move on? Which is why this current season and the way that they're playing now is such a refreshing display of Nets basketball, and I hope it continues. So, continuing on with this rant of mine, it's the day after Christmas. So as we speak, the Nets are currently on a 9-game win streak. They just beat the Cavs today, so they're literally right behind them. I think they might be third in the East now, which is crazy. But that's where I had them in my prediction for the end of the season. I had them either third or fourth. It was either going to be them or Philly. I did not expect Cleveland to be this great, but proud of them. And this year has honestly been my favorite year of basketball in a while. I gotta say, this might be my most favorite season since 2016. I consider 2016 to be one of the greatest seasons of basketball of all time. I mean, 73-9 Warriors team, and just a lot of great basketball that year. But that was something amazing, and the outcome of that finals has affected everything else up to current day. I mean, if they win the finals, that's one less ring for LeBron, and that would just be 3 years straight of final losses for him, and it would make Golden State the greatest team ever. There'd be no debate between that team and the Bulls. Curry would have an extra ring. Curry would have had a ring two rings pre-KD. KD might not have ever even gone to the team. And that was crazy because they came back from a 3-1 deficit just to lose, having a 3-1 advantage. That's just insane. And if that doesn't happen, if KD never goes to the team, then who knows? They might have still won, might have still been a dynasty regardless. But that whole thing just changed so much stuff. And then because they lost, KD joins the team. Everybody hates on KD.
Um, LeBron loses the next 2 years, leaves, goes to LA. Then, you know, I mean, obviously COVID plays a big part in that, but even before that, um, then 2019 happens. If if Kawhi doesn't go to the Raptors, and if Kevin Durant doesn't get hurt, then they three-peat. And if KD was as fire as he was, if KD had won three straight Finals MVPs, he'd be in the conversation. It'd be a debatable conversation, obviously, but yeah, it would just be crazy. And I just think like it's it's wild today, and if he doesn't go to Brooklyn, what happens. But now with everything in Brooklyn, um, I was just an insane like turn of events, and all of this. Like I said, it's still the effects of 2016 are still just sprinkled all throughout, you know. And then it's wild that people give Brooklyn all this criticism, but there's no where's that same energy for the Clippers? Because Kawhi and Paul George was supposed to been won a chip by now. That hasn't happened. They're both constantly getting injured, but no one says anything about them. Kawhi is just as quiet, if not more quiet, than Kevin Durant. No one calls into question Kawhi's leadership skills, and Kawhi's supposed to be the number one player on that team, right? So that's just a bit of disparity, in my opinion. Um, Even the Kyrie thing, that's a result of 2016, and then the following year they lose. He wants out, goes to Boston, goes to my team, and I'm thinking, yeah, Kyrie about to be the man, about to lead the way. Turns out, it's just ahead of the curve. Now people sleep on it because when the first year Kyrie was there before he got hurt, Kyrie was leading that team, and Kyrie was playing very well. But then after that injury and the whole Gordon Hayward situation, and there's a lot of blame game going around during that tumultuous time. But I'm glad that Tatum and Brown stuck through it. I'm glad that Tatum is finding his way. Jason Tatum and Kevin Durant are probably my two favorite players in the league right now. Tatum, Durant, and Steph are probably my three favorite players in the league right now. And Tatum is just awesome this year. I'm pretty sure Tatum's gonna win MVP. If he doesn't, um, I'd be surprised. But um, I'm always torn because like I really want Boston to go to the finals this year and win, but you know, I just feel like Durant is busting his ass right now, and he deserves, you know, a chance to really do this, lead his own team on his own, and be the man and get to the finals and do his thing. Because honestly, I feel like this is about to be the next generation right now. And I'm about to wrap this rant up, but the season is just amazing. I mean, between John Morant, Zion, Devin Booker, Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, Shai Gilgis, Alexander, and then on top of all of that, Luca just being a beast on the Mavs, even though they're losing a lot of games. But I feel like all the legacy people got their chance. I mean, Westbrook and Harden aside, because they kind of ended up being on other people's teams. But you know, I mean, LeBron got his in 2020. Steph got his in 2022. And I feel like had everything gone right 2021, that would have been KD's year to win his ring. But Giannis took that, and rightfully so. I thought Chris Paul was going to get his, and they just kind of blew that up. But, you know, regardless, this is what it is. And I feel like KD needs to fight to get his ring before it becomes completely the new young guys crew. Because Zion is back and playing great. And Giannis is obviously still in the mix. And it's just, the NBA's in good hands. And I'm glad that super team era is kind of over now. Everybody, the East is great, the West is great. I mean, everybody from seeds 1 to 12 are great. So I'm really excited for the rest of this year. My podcast, Filling Hills, coming out soon. And at some point, we're going to have an episode talking about this season and, close to the All-Star break. And I'm looking forward to that. I just, I'm having fun. And I can't wait to see what the season brings. Let me know who you think the champ is going to be this year. Drop it in the comments. I know this was another long rant video, but this is just what I do. So if you happen to like it, subscribe, check out more content. There's gonna be something posted probably around here. So catch you later. Enjoy.